This is Blair Durham with Black Wall Street Today, your media hub for all things Black business and related news, strategy, and events.
Greetings. Welcome, and thank you for choosing Black Wall Street Today. I am your host, Blair Durham, always excited to share with you all. I have the great pleasure of leading Black Brand, our region's Black Chamber of Commerce. And often I get the question, why does a region need a Black Chamber of Commerce? It's so many other business associations and organizations that are supporting businesses. What is the need? What's the utility for a Black Chamber? I tell them Black businesses have different needs. They need access to capital, they need access to education, access to networking resources. And so we're laser focused on supporting businesses from an equity lens. So again, just super excited to get to do the work that we do every day. This past Tuesday, we awarded $25,000 in grants to 5 deserving Black-owned businesses who completed our B-Force Accelerator program. It's just another part of the blessing of the work that we get to do. So I'd invite anyone who's interested in maybe getting some additional support and resources for their businesses to visit our website, blackbrand.biz. The B-Force Accelerator application portal is open. The next classes begin in February. If you live in Norfolk or if your business is located in Norfolk, we'll be super excited to work with you. You have to have been in business for 2 years in order to access the program. There is a revenue threshold of $2 million. So if you're already exceeding $2 million in annual revenue, you're not eligible for the program. But otherwise, we would look forward to being able to assist you with your accounting needs, your marketing needs, your legal needs. We really want to help you prepare those financials so that you too can access capital, whether it's grants, loans, equity capital. We've got resources, and we want to put those resources in your hands so that you can continue scaling your business on your terms. Without further ado, I want to announce today's guest. I'm excited about the conversation that we're going to have with Luqman Haskett. He is the owner of Dapper Luke. He's a custom clothier. He's very passionate about men's fashion and sharing his love and style with young men. He's hosted several workshops on dressing professionally to both young men and adults. Additionally, he's also hosted numerous events in the area that bring out the fashion elite. Dapper Luke is a true believer that the ultimate goal in life should be to find a way, or rather to find what you're passionate about and find a way to make a living doing it. In 2019, Dapper Luke officially launched his custom suit line, Dapper Luke Collection. The collection focused on bringing unique suit colors and styles to both men and women. After retiring from the military in January of 2020, Luke opened Dapper Luke Custom Clothier Showroom in Virginia Beach, Virginia. In August 2022, Dapper Luke opened his second Dapper Luke Custom Clothier Showroom in Baltimore, Maryland. Welcome to the show, Dapper Luke. How are you?
I am great. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here.
Yes, and I am honored to have you as a guest. Super excited about just the brand that you've established, the energy around fashion. You just do a wonderful job. And so I'm hopeful today we can talk a little bit about the process of starting a brand, growing a brand, particularly during the pandemic. I know that presented a number of challenges, but you were able to overcome those challenges. So let's talk a little bit about your journey as you began the Dapper Luke Custom Clothier brand.
Okay. So, part of the bio that you read for me talked about finding the thing that you're passionate about and then finding a way to make money. So that whole idea for me came from reading a book called Mastery by Robert Greene. Robert Greene is the same gentleman that wrote 48 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction. He has a book called Mastery. So in about 2012, I was with the Marines out in Afghanistan. I read this book, and it just kind of really made me think, the military is something I'm doing now, but it's not something I plan on doing forever. And when I do make that transition, what am I going to do? So Dapper Luke, the name, the brand, was a blogger. in 2014. That's kind of how I first got into the world of fashion. And then from blogging, I became a model. I was a stylist for a couple years. I actually mentored, or should I say I was an apprentice underneath of Clavin Leonard, who's a designer out of New York. And he's the one that really, really got me, I guess opened my eyes, to what fashion can be. I traveled with him to South Africa, Ghana. We went to Bangladesh, Algeria. And he just kind of really put me in a lane to think that, okay, there's a way you can actually be financially stable, and be in the world of fashion. But at first, I didn't really know how I would make money in fashion. And kind of getting back to your original question about, the pandemic. So I opened my doors January of 2020, and I was going to use what is now my showroom as an office. And after being in an office for 2 months, I'm sorry?
No, just echoing. I'm listening.
Oh. So being in that office for 2 months and then the world entering into the pandemic where we shut down, I kind of had to figure out a way to be able to make money. So I, shifted from an office to a showroom, one-on-one consultations, virtual consultations, just kind of doing anything I can to put myself in front of people, during a time where people just weren't moving around.
Yeah.
And then from there, we were able to...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You can ask your question.
Now, I wanted to ask, because you mentioned Robert Greene. He's one of my favorite authors as well. I have not had a chance to really do a deep dive into the book Mastery. What would you say are one or two key takeaways from that book? I'm certain it's chock full of information that's applied, but what are just a couple of those takeaways?
So, like I said, the very first thing is, kind of having a serious conversation with yourself. And asking, what is success? What is happiness? What do you like, right? A lot of people will let, outside sources dictate to them what success is, whether it be your parents, it be professors. A thing that I always hear is, you have the potential to do this. You have the potential to do that. But you have to then ask yourself, is that what I want to do? Even though I have the quote-unquote potential to do it, am I actually going to enjoy doing it, or is that success for me? Right. So that's one thing I always ask my 2 boys. I ask them, what is success for you? I am your father. I can guide. I can, help. I can challenge you, but I don't know what success is for you. So in order to help you, become successful, I have to know what you define as success. That's one of the things that the book really kind of emphasized. Another thing is what I was talking about as far as apprenticeship. In this world that we live in now, a lot of people have the mentality, okay, I go to school for a few years, I graduate high school, I go to college. When I graduate from college, I have this degree, I just enter the world and I make all this money. There was a period of time where school, as we traditionally know it, did not exist. If you wanted to get into a profession, you had to find somebody in that profession and become their apprentice and learn the trade. And then when you were at a level where you felt comfortable, you could open up your own. That was leather making, that was, barbering, all those professions. You started out as an intern. And that's kind of how I got into the world of fashion. I found a mentor, someone who, again, showed me things that I had not even thought about. When I launched my very first collection, I debuted in Algeria, in Africa. I never would have had that thought if it had just been me. I kind of had to have that mentor to even put that idea into my head. When I said I was going to come out with my first collection, he said, well, let's go to Africa and do it. What? But, he put the idea and we did it.
Congrats to you. I'm super impressed because I think about the world of fashion and I think about kind of the relationship between the work that you're doing and how it supports the business professional. Oftentimes, I've heard it said that the bigger folks get as they climb the corporate ladder or as they really advance from an entrepreneurial standpoint, the less time they really have to dedicate to kind of some of these more important things, right? And so I'd love to hear ways in which you're working with professionals to help them with their imaging, to help them develop their brand presence from a standpoint of their wardrobe.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I always feel like what you wear is your way of speaking to the world without saying anything, right? When you first walk into a room, your clothing and how you look, your mannerisms are what speak first before you even open your mouth. So I think it's very important to kind of understand that, whenever you put on something, right? In addition to that, right, it has to almost be a confidence factor as well. You have to be very confident, with certain looks. And, just kind of having the understanding of that is one thing that I love. I every day I, sit down with individuals who may or may not wear suits or professional clothing, and I just have conversations of, what is the image you're trying to portray? What are some, yeses? What are some nos when it comes to colors, styles, patterns, things like that? And then once we kind of have that understanding, then we can put together a wardrobe or a garment, for that individual. Me as a person that's in fashion, I, again, understand that although I'm comfortable wearing, doing, and seeing certain things, I am not my client. I just have to take what they are comfortable with and then put out a garment that, sometimes they want to stand out. So I don't necessarily want to. They just want to look professional. But again, that all starts with a conversation.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Also, too, I know there are individuals who are they're career switching. They're making decisions, particularly in this season, about what the next year, the next several years of their lives are going to look like. What would you say to someone that is interested in becoming a part of the fashion industry?
Well, definitely, if you are able to come underneath of someone that's already in it, I think that's a good thing. Because again, someone that's already in it, someone that's already established, they can put you in front of people. You can see things in a way that you would not have necessarily seen, just kind of coming in with the naked eye. I did do 20 years in the Navy, and one of the very important things we used to always tell people is, you don't know what you don't know, so you kind of have to be exposed to things first. Then you can draw conclusions, questions, and things like that. And it helps if you go with somebody who's already been in the industry to kind of put you in those situations, and then you can then ask questions to that person. So anytime you're going to do a career change, anytime you're going to do something that's like unfamiliar to you, find someone that's already doing it, and then go to as many things as you can, like you said, networking events, fashion shows, all those different things that definitely help you if you decide to come to the world of fashion.
So I've got to ask this question because I appreciate the piece about apprenticeship, right? But I wonder, is fashion the type of industry that is so competitive to where, if you're going to approach someone and say, hey, I'm looking to do what it is that you do, is that something that they're going to be receptive to and just, oh, yeah, take you under their wing and groom what would be their competition? Particularly in a market like Hampton Roads, what's your thought on that?
Well, so I'll just say this: every person is different, right? Sure. I kind of look at it. You have to approach people. Well, this is the one thing I'll say, right? I understand what you're saying. Like, I don't know this person from a can of paint. Then I come up and say, hey, I want to be your apprentice, right? Sometimes you have to be introduced to that person by someone that you already know. Or you have to reach out, with a different angle. But the one thing I'll say, right, with any industry, there is competition, right? But just because there is competition, right, does not mean that we can't all work together. I look at it, as the real estate market, to me, is one of the friggin' most full markets I see. And I see people every day applying to real estate classes, right? So, the world, there's so many homes out there, and there's real estate agents every day. There's not as many Claudiers and folks in fashion as there are people in real estate, but you see people in real estate all the time, and they're able to grow. They have mentors. They have training. So any industry you go into, there's going to be competition, right? And it's just approaching the right people that you think can help you along your journey. And to be honest with you, sometimes seeing the wrong people, right? You don't always want to see the good. You need to see the bad as well. When I was doing my modeling, I ran into some bad folks that were, running fashion shows and, doing model management. But I had to see that to know what was bad. You just can't always see the good. It can't always be, rainbows and sunshine. You need to see some bad. And, approaching a person that may be, abrasive, that's necessary. Because, again, even when you get into the world of fashion and you're out here and you're competing, it's not always good. So, running into people that are not nice or don't, want to help out, that's necessary in just the growth of any business as a business person.
Yeah, I want to double down on something that you said. I really believe that the business, particularly business success, it inspires competition, right? And it doesn't mean that everybody's not going to win in the space. You use the example about the real estate industry. I like to use the example of fast food. You look at on any given corner, there's a McDonald's, there's a Burger King, there's a Rally's, a Wendy's. Everybody's got their thing that they do really, really well. And everybody makes money, right? And so we need not fear competition. But I do think it is the case that as we get into a thing, we find our niche, right? We find our thing that we do better. And ultimately we can succeed. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I also appreciate what you shared about collaboration, right? And pipelining, because I can imagine, Luke, you have to tell me if this is true, if there is a network of folks in your industry, then that means that if there's something that they can't do, they pass it on to you and vice versa. And you guys are serving as advertising partners for one another.
Yes. For me, as a designer, everything I do is custom, right? I don't have anything off the rack. But one of my business, peers, Upscale Men's Fashion, they do off the rack, meaning you can go into their store and pull a suit off the rack. I don't do that. So people will come to them and say, hey, I want a custom suit. They refer me. Someone calls me, this literally just happened this week. Hey, I want to rent a suit tomorrow. I don't rent suits, but here's Upscale Men's Fashion. They rent suits. So, like you said, I don't have to do everything within my industry, but I have those that I trust and I feel comfortable recommending when a client comes to me, and vice versa.
It makes a lot of sense. So 20 years in the military prior to embarking on this entrepreneurship journey, what are some of the transferable skills? You talked about one piece, you don't know what you don't know, but what are some of the things, particularly as Black Brand looks to work with more veterans in the coming year, what are some of the things that you're able to kind of say, absolutely, my service in the military prepared me for this aspect of entrepreneurship?
So for me, when we were in the military, right, a big thing that we did was schedules and planning, right? So I am very big on, I get up in the morning, get me and my daughter up together, get her on the road as far as, her school bus. I go to the gym. I try to work out 3 to 4 times a week, definitely a military thing. And then just having a consistent schedule, right? As a business owner, as a person who, you are the person, there's no one that's going to say, hey, this is due or we got to do this. You have to kind of be self-motivated, and having schedules, planning, that is definitely a thing I pull from the military and I apply to my business every single day, as well as setting goals. Within the military, goal setting is a big part of what we do as far as our planning, and then kind of what is the goals that we have to pull from this particular exercise or whatever that was we're doing. And then finally, looking back and getting those lessons learned, right? People will say, I messed up and I'm going to quit. No, in my opinion, I think that it's possible to do what I call fail forward, right? If something does not work, or something does not, pan out the way that you want it to, take the lessons from that and then reapply it in a way that will work, or try something else, right? You can't be successful if you don't, see, like I say, the good and the bad, and you have to be able to apply them. I know for me, in 2020, it was a lot of things that I tried, and just due to the nature of what was going on in the world, they just weren't working. But that didn't stop me. I didn't give up and throw my hands in the air. I took those lessons, I changed some processes, and I just adapted to what the world was giving me at the time.
Yeah, I love it. You talked about discipline, right? Really that scheduling piece, kind of having that routine, so important, and I harp on this. Folks think they're going to enter entrepreneurship any kind of way, that success is going to come to them and they're going to be able to spend more time off than on. And so I just love hearing you say that the reality is, if you hadn't had that routine, hadn't had that planning, hadn't had that consistency in the way you do things, there's a very good chance that you wouldn't be in business right now. I also loved hearing you say the piece about introspection, the failing forward, being able to take that time and authentically examine what took place so you can understand what went wrong, so that you can make the adjustments necessary. I think entrepreneurship offers that more so than any other career path, is the ability to, because no one's going to fire you as an entrepreneur, right? So we have an opportunity, a unique opportunity to look at who we are, look at what we've been, and then make that plan to move ahead. I love that. So what's on your docket, Dapper Luke, for 2023? What's coming up in the year ahead? Where can we find you? Share with us.
So the biggest thing in 2023 for me is I definitely want to get back into traveling. I kind of have a goal of doing one international show per quarter in 2023. All right, so that's kind of one thing. In addition to that, I do have my second location in Baltimore, which is run primarily by my brother. So I want to kind of be able to empower my brother to push that store. I'll be the first one to say my brother and I, although we look alike, everyone thinks that we're twins, we don't think alike and we don't have the same driving factors. So trying to be able to push him in a way that, it doesn't seem like I'm overbearing, but I'm allowing him to go into his own way, that's important to me. So I've, done some networking events, and I have things that I'm planning on for the Maryland store to kind of get help with him to grow into that position as a business owner. And then also, just kind of beyond 2023, I do want to open up a third location. So, part of this journey right now is seeing, does my process work? My process has worked for me. I then want to see, does the process work for my brother? And if I'm able to take the lessons learned from, my own store, my brother's store, I can then apply it to maybe bringing in somebody else that is outside the family and knowing that the system has worked, and we can apply it to that third location.
Yeah, beautiful. How do we get in contact with you now for those of us that may be interested in scheduling an appointment, a consultation? Maybe we want a custom suit in the new year. How can you be reached, Luke?
The quickest way is through my website, www.dapperluke, and that's BAPPERLUQ.com. That's how you can schedule a consultation. You can also call me. My phone number is available on the website. And if you have the ability to, look me up on social media, I usually respond to anyone on social media. All of my social handles are Dapper Luke, DAPPERLUQ, and that's the quickest way to get hold of me.
Perfect. In the couple minutes that we have remaining, I'd love to hear more about the blog. So are you still blogging? I know that was kind of your foray into what you're doing now, but are you still doing any blogging?
I don't do any blogging in the sense that I was, but what I do, with social media does give you the ability to, speak to your audience, through words, through videos, through photos. So I'm definitely still, trying to put out what I consider my take on fashion, my take on business, my take on, just kind of being a man here in America. But I just don't do it in the traditional blogs. I do it mostly on my social media networks whenever I'm doing any type of discussions or putting out my take on fashion.
Yeah, I'm looking at your page now. Definitely some inspiring content. I know that you have a couple of events coming up. You've got something happening in Elizabeth City on January 7th. Talk to us about that. That's a trunk show? What does this mean? Not quite a fashion.
So basically,
what's the format?
So one thing that I learned, and this is also something that, you in business have to just always be on the lookout for, how can you expand yourself? So I had 2 clients that came up from Elizabeth City looking for custom suits. So, in my head, I'm like, okay, so you came up from Elizabeth City an hour away to have me make you a custom suit. Is there not one of me down there where you are? And they said no. So I said, okay, well, let me go down there, open up in a specific location and let everybody know that I'm here. That way they can come to me in Elizabeth City. So I actually know a member of the school board down in Elizabeth City, reached out to him and said, hey, can you get me a location that I can just set up shop? People can come to me and place custom suit orders. So it's this ability for me to go down to an area where there's not one of me and offer my services for a full day.
Yeah, love it. So what is the average budget for a custom suit, Dapper Luke?
What would you potentially spend if you wanted to go the custom suit route?
Hey, Blair,
yeah. I mean, I'm just curious,
I would budget about $1,000.
Okay. That's good to know. Some of us can do it. Some of us can't,
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I'll say when it comes to, that budget, first and foremost, it's the education piece, right? Because you're absolutely right. You can a lot of times go to a store that has, suits on the rack, and you may pay, half of that, right? But a lot of my clients, they want a very unique look, right, which is unavailable off the rack. And then some of them just based off of their size.
Yeah, they want that experience of really having something tailored on them. We are out of time, Dapper Luke. This has been amazing. I want to thank you so much for being a part of today's show. It's dapperluq.com. So that's DAPPERLUQ.com. You can take a look at his content on social media. Amazing content there. Hey, and thank you for tuning in to Black Wall Street today, where we're building minds, building connections, and forging the path ahead toward business success.
Stay with us online at Black Wall Street Today on Facebook and Black Wall Street Today on Instagram, and then follow us on Twitter as well at BWS Today. We look forward to talking again next week. Have a wonderful week. I have said, and I will continue to say, that the most important priority for the Black community is the Black community, not a particular political party.
Phenomenal.
Hey, yo, when I say black, you say Wall Street. Black Wall Street. When I say black, you say Wall Street. Black. When I say black, you say Wall Street. Black. When I say black, you say Wall Street. Black. Black Wall Wall Street.